Can Ferrari save its season before it completely slips through its fingers? What real impact will the long-awaited SF-25 update have at Imola? If you think Hamilton just needs time, this video might make you reconsider. Ferrari's start to the 2025 season hasn't just been a stumble. It's been a painfully honest reflection of its structural shortcomings. With the SF-25, a car that promised speed and versatility after pre-season testing, Ferrari entered the campaign with sky-high expectations. And with good reason. They had one of the most powerful duos in the paddock. On one side, Charles Leclerc, already established as a natural leader within the team after years of hard work and performances bordering on heroic. On the other, Lewis Hamilton, the living legend who, after closing his time with Mercedes, joined the prancing horse with the ambition of returning the team to the top. But what was expected to be a solid start turned into a reality check. From the first race in Australia, it was clear that the car had a major Achilles heel: qualifying. Frederic Vasseur, in a forceful and honest statement, acknowledged that the pace has always been very good in the race, but if we're not further ahead, it's because of qualifying. And this is no minor problem. In modern Formula One, where gaps are microscopic and overtaking opportunities are limited by dirty aerodynamics and track layout, starting from the 4th or 5th row means starting at a strategic disadvantage. The SF-25 shows consistency in race pace. On long runs, its tire degradation has been moderate, and its efficiency in technical corners has allowed it to climb positions on Sundays. But it doesn't matter how fast you are in long stints if you start on Sunday from outside the top 6. And therein lies the Ferrari paradox: a car that is competitive when it's already too late to win. He can't fight for pole, and that, in today's F1, is a given. Then came China, and with it, what is probably one of the most embarrassing moments for Ferrari in recent years. Both cars were disqualified. Leclerc for having his car under the minimum permitted weight, and Hamilton for excessive wear on the car's underbody. 2 technical errors, 2 failures in detail and execution. In Vasseur's words, "We're still paying for the points lost in China." In a championship where the difference between success and failure can be reduced to a single point, losing the entire spoils of a race due to such failures is not only frustrating, it's unacceptable for a team of Ferrari's caliber. The team's reaction was a mixture of frustration and tense silence. Internally, there is an acknowledgement that there is a lack of synchronization between the technical and operational departments. The car has potential, but it is not being optimally exploited. Hamilton, for his part, has shown gradual adaptation, but has also hinted that the transition to Ferrari has been more complicated than expected. In Australia, for example, he confessed to feeling disconnected from the car for much of the weekend, and although he adapted his style to Leclerc's to be more competitive, he still lacks the full confidence he needs to shine. And this isn't a new problem. Ferrari has been dragging along a narrative of almost for years. They almost won. They almost fought. They almost fixed their strategic errors. Hamilton's arrival was supposed to be that change of mindset, that spark that would reactivate Maranello's winning DNA. But, at least for now, history seems to be repeating itself. The car isn't qualifying well. The team is making mistakes. Rivals, meanwhile, are making progress. This first block of the season hasn't just been a technical test. It's been a psychological test for Ferrari. Because beyond speed, what's beginning to be questioned is whether this team is ready to compete with the surgical precision that contemporary F1 demands. Do they have what it takes to correct their course in time? Or are we facing yet another chapter of broken promises in red? The answer, perhaps, will begin to emerge at the next stop, Imola. When a season begins with setbacks, the updates aren't just new components. They're promises. They're technical redemptions encapsulated in carbon fiber and millimeter-precise aerodynamics. For Ferrari, the Imola Grand Prix represents just that, an opportunity to rewrite the course of the SF-25, not only from an engineering perspective, but also from the emotional narrative of the championship. In the words of Frederic Vasseur, "We'll probably bring updates to Imola." And that probably is no longer an option. It's a necessity. Ferrari has identified the key areas where its car loses out to McLaren, Mercedes, and Red Bull. Poor qualifying is not only a symptom of a lack of specific downforce, but also of a setup that fails to find its ideal performance window in low-temperature track sessions. This deficiency, especially critical on urban or semi-urban circuits like Australia or China, has left the SF-25 as a car that needs to warm up too much to function. A dangerous paradox in a category where every second counts from the moment the lights come on. The improvements expected at Imola are not a simple patch, but a fundamental overhaul. Technically, the package would include a redesign of the floor, which already had its first iteration in Bahrain. This component, key to generating downforce through ground effect, could now incorporate more aggressive air channels, revised diffusers, and structural adjustments that allow for greater stability on corner entry and exit. All of this aims to reduce the aerodynamic bounce that is still noticeable in certain conditions, especially with a full tank or in high-load corners like those at Suzuka. In addition to the bottom bracket, Ferrari plans to revise the front suspension. The goal is twofold: to improve weight transfer under braking and to facilitate optimal front tire temperatures on the pit exit lap. This has been another weakness of the SF-25, which tends to require 2 full laps to achieve acceptable grip, which is a significant disadvantage in qualifying and especially in sprint sessions, where there is no margin for error. The choice of Imola is no coincidence. Unlike Miami, which uses a sprint format with only 1 free practice session, Imola allows the team to evaluate each component with more leeway. The Italian track also represents a real circuit for Ferrari, a place where emotions and engineering intertwine. Not only is the car tested there, but also the soul of the team. Every mechanic, every engineer, every driver understands what it means to race at home. And if there's one place where Ferrari must and can be reborn, it's Imola. But there's also pressure, because expectations aren't just internal. Rivals have already thrown their first punches. McLaren has aggressively evolved its car, integrating elements bordering on the experimental in suspension design and flow geometry. Mercedes, for its part, has shown clear signs of recovery with a W15 that responds better to balance adjustments. And Red Bull, although it has shown cracks, still boasts the sharpest strategic adaptation capacity in the paddock. Ferrari arrives at Imola with a question hanging over its head. Is this their last realistic shot at fighting for the championship? If the updates work, they could initiate a climb that restores their confidence, consistency, and above all, their hope. But if they fail, if after all the development, simulations, and resources invested, the car is still unable to fight from the front, then we're facing a much deeper structural problem that no update can solve. This second act isn't just a technical pause. It's a waiting period before a verdict that could determine Ferrari's fate in 2025. What happens at Imola will determine whether this car was simply a diamond in the rough, or a promise poorly formulated from the outset. And that, in Formula One, could cost more than a championship. It could cost years of rebuilding. While Ferrari grapples with its inner demons and unfulfilled technical promises, the rest of the paddock hasn't let up for a moment. In a season where the margins between leading teams have shrunk to microscopic levels, every race is a battle for technical and psychological legitimacy. And so far, Ferrari's rivals have not only flexed their muscles, they've made it clear they won't wait for anyone. McLaren is, without a doubt, the team to beat. After a 2024 season in which they bordered on perfection, the MCL39 has started the new campaign not as an heir to success, but as a refined predator. The Norris-Piastri duo not only combines youth and speed, but also a technical understanding of the car that borders on the surgical. Lando Norris leads the championship, and his victory in Australia sent a direct message to the rest of the field. There's no room for error when you're competing against a team that has taken aerodynamic development to the extreme. The design of the 2025 McLaren is an ode to efficiency. Changes to the suspension geometry, tweaks to the cooling system, and a body that embraces the concept of laminar flow in every way. But beyond engineering, McLaren's true progress lies in its execution. The race strategy is precise, its pit stops are the most consistent of the year, and its ability to adapt to different track conditions seems unwavering. While Ferrari is still internally debating its qualifying errors, McLaren is already 3 steps ahead, working on simulations for circuits that are still a month away from the calendar. Mercedes, on the other hand, has re-emerged like a sleeping titan beginning to awaken with a vengeance. The W15 wasn't the most spectacular car in testing, but with George Russell and young Kimi Antonelli at the wheel, the team has demonstrated an accelerated learning curve. Russell has racked up consecutive podium finishes and displays a serene leadership reminiscent of his best days in 2022. Antonelli, a full rookie, has not only scored points in every race but has also earned the respect of the paddock with his premature maturity. Toto Wolff has made it clear that the team's philosophy has changed. Less public discourse, more in-depth work. And that silence, sometimes, is what makes the most noise when the results start to trickle in. And then there's Red Bull, a wounded giant. After the internal chaos of the Horner case and Liam Lawson's demotion, the energy drink team is in a moment of redefinition. Max Verstappen remains the most feared driver on the grid, and his victory in Japan showed that when the car delivers, it is unstoppable. But the RB21 has revealed its weaknesses. It struggles in slow corners, tends to oversteer under low-load conditions, and its reliability has been questioned more than once this season. The addition of Yuki Tsunoda as Verstappen's teammate was a tactical move seeking stability, but also reflects the urgency of finding a second driver who not only scores points but also doesn't compromise the car's technical development. This competitive landscape leaves Ferrari in a difficult position. They can no longer make excuses for future promises. While they plan improvements for Imola, their rivals are already taking the next steps. Formula One doesn't reward intentions, it rewards execution. And in that regard, Ferrari must prove it can respond to words with actions. External pressure is as dangerous as internal pressure. Every McLaren success is a direct threat. Every point scored by Mercedes or Red Bull in difficult conditions is proof that Ferrari cannot afford to continue reacting late. In this game of constant evolution, those who snooze lose. And in 2025, the competition hasn't slept a single second. Ferrari's fate in 2025 won't be decided by a single Grand Prix, nor by a single update. It is being shaped by an accumulation of decisions, disparate performances, and key moments where every move or lack thereof can tip the scales between redemption or ruin. Formula One is merciless to the undecided, and the margin of error that could once be tolerated in a long season now disappears in a calendar where rivals not only advance but evolve. The most iconic team in the history of motorsport is at a technical, human, and symbolic crossroads. On a technical level, the arrival of the upgrade package at Imola will be more than an evolution of the SF-25. It will be a decisive test of the engineering team's ability to correctly read the car's weak points and execute a comprehensive solution under pressure. Because it's not just about adding downforce or reducing drag. It's about restoring to the car that intangible but vital quality, confidence. The kind a driver feels when braking late, when hitting the accelerator early, when knowing the car will respond with surgical precision through every corner. On a human level, the relationship between Leclerc and Hamilton hasn't yet exploded, but it's on the verge of operational tension. Both drivers are overly competitive, overly aware of their value and what winning would mean for their respective careers. Ferrari needs cohesion, but what it has now is a fragilely balanced collaboration. And that balance can only be maintained if the results follow. If the improvements don't deliver the expected leap in performance, if the strategic errors persist, then the relationship could break down. Not with public scandals, but with small fissures that, in this sport, are enough to lose a championship. Symbolically, Ferrari is struggling to recover its narrative. It's no longer enough to be the team with the most history. Titles aren't won with mystique. They're won with the right decisions at the right time. With bold innovations and an internal culture that rewards excellence, not inertia. And that's what's at stake. Ferrari's future as a serious contender, or its resignation to a secondary role under the eternal pretext of "we're rebuilding." The coming weekends will be more than races. They will be identity tests. Every time sector, every pit stop, every strategy under pressure will reveal whether Ferrari has truly learned from its past mistakes or is doomed to repeat them. Because this team doesn't need a podium to breathe. It needs a statement of intent, a clear response to the world. We are still Ferrari. And we're here for everything. But if the answers don't come, if the improvements disappoint and the mistakes are repeated, then the outcome will be different. Not the epic of a rebirth, but the story of a silent fall. And in a sport where memory is short and glory ephemeral, even such great names can fade into the shadows of what they once were.